Today's guest spent nearly 2 decades climbing the corporate ladder before making a bold decision: stop building someone else's assets and start building her own. In this episode, we sit down with our guest to talk about how technology and cybersecurity can impact business valuation and the hidden risks that show up when critical processes live inside the owner's head. You'll also hear about her journey from corporate executive to entrepreneur, why she believes stability looks different today than it did a generation ago, and how business owners can start thinking about exit readiness long before they're ready to sell.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, the podcast where entrepreneurs come together to build businesses that are stronger, more valuable, and fully in their control. I'm Bobby Mascia, a serial entrepreneur, wealth advisor, author, and the founder of the Exit Ready Institute, a structured program that helps entrepreneurs align business growth with personal wealth to build one cohesive strategy that takes the business beyond them. Because here's the truth. Being exit ready isn't about the exit, it's about the readiness. Because exit ready businesses are just simply better businesses to own. If you're ready to gain clarity, take control, and unlock the full value of what you've built, you're in the right place. So let's go.
Bobby Mascia is the founder and CEO of Greenridge Wealth Planning. All opinions expressed by Bobby and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinion of Greenridge Wealth Planning. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast. Please welcome entrepreneur, technology strategist, and business owner, Elina Greenstein.
So I'm going to jump right in. You started off in tech and now you're a franchisee. Mm-hmm. Give us a quick version of what that path has looked like for you so far.
Yeah. I spent almost 2 decades doing the safe thing, the thing that everybody expected you to do. You got a good degree, got the good job, built the good life, commuted on my hamster wheel. And I got to the point where after I had my second son, I realized that this concept of time, every hour that you spend somewhere is an hour you're not somewhere else.
It's amazing how kids bring that perspective, isn't it?
Well, because they are so insistent on your time. And you realize, we live in all these different worlds, right? I have friends that are able to be in more control of their time. And I used to think, I'm this big wig in corporate. Look at all this amazing work that I'm doing that frankly was invisible to my family. Mm-hmm. All they knew was my presence. All they knew was when I was available. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to be a mom that is present? And the answer was yes.
What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Because usually there's something that is the pushover point where you're like, okay, maybe I've been mulling this over or kind of just kicking it around a little bit, and it turns into, oh no, this has got to stop. Mm-hmm.
So
do you remember that?
So I come from corporate. My most previous job was corporate. And if you've ever worked in corporate, you know that they have all these rules about how they measure your success at the end of the year, right?
Which changed?
The thing that changed for me was I continue to exceeds expectations every year. My bonus reflected that. And every year, the goalpost reset. Mm-hmm. Nothing built.
Everything changes.
And then I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm literally disappearing from my family, from the cute little moments between work and bedtime where my kids get to just be this this amazing part of themselves, to go fly across the country for a happy hour with a bunch of customers that frankly, don't even appreciate me and my time. They just do it because they have to, because this is my job and that's their job. And we're just doing this whole little dance because this is what we're told we have to do. And that just wasn't going to be enough for me, right?
And meanwhile, your customers are probably looking at their time going, I guess we're going to go out and I guess they're going to come and take us out, but I'd rather be with my kids too.
Absolutely. And the best thing is half the time they would cancel on you. I flew all the way out to SF and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, my kid, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, my kid, I know. So I really just started to be like, I'm a very organized person. I encourage you to come to my home and open up any closet that you want. Everything is organized and in its place. And
don't say that too loud because my wife might actually encourage you to come to our home and take care of our organization. No, I'm just kidding.
My services are free of charge. You just need to pay me in delicious energy drinks. I think about every single aspect of my life in terms of structure. And it brings comfort. It brings balance. I mean, think about when our kids were little, right? what do they say? The 12 by 12, this concept of like sleep training. They just need to know what happens next. They need to have expectation, right? And so when you bring structure into your life, like I'm going to be in control of how I spend my time. It's going to be on my terms. It's not going to be the meeting after the meeting, for the pre-meeting, before the notes that could have been an email. How many jokes on Instagram do we need to see about that before we realize, like, my God, that is what I am missing coaching my sons in baseball for, right? That's not worth it for me anymore. So I wanted to be in control of my outcomes. And I realized the only way I can do that is if I'm in control of the whole business.
It's amazing how that's the path that is kind of paved for us. The path of least resistance is get an education, build up these small skill sets with these few things that you like, because you don't really know yet. You don't have the you don't have the experience, rather. You only come out with the education. And then you've got to follow a path that's laid out for you. And decade, 2 decades, or even worse, you're going into like the later part of your life and you're going, I'm miserable.
That's basically where I found myself. I mean, so my family history is I was born in the Soviet Union in Latvia. My family and I immigrated here when I was very young. And we lived very much the American dream. Food stamps, paycheck to paycheck for a long time, window shopping for a long time. And that upbringing, everything my parents came here for was get good job, get good education, get good home, get like the whole, the thing.
And what did they do when they got here? What was their job, their profession?
My dad was a civil engineer. So that was a skill that he was able to transfer here. My mom was the equivalent of a librarian, which was also a very valuable skill, but here doesn't translate as well in terms of a marketable skill to build the life she wanted. So she went back to school for computer programming and basically did that. Ironically, worked in IT at the time back then. So it all comes full circle.
Yeah, I love it.
And had to reinvent herself a couple times, to be honest with you. My parents are incredible. The way that they just know, like they were consistently do what is required on that path. And that was ingrained in me. Follow the path, work the system, do exactly what you need to do, and you will be successful. And I did. And frankly, like I'm so grateful for what I have been able to achieve. Like I had a great career in tech and corporate. Like don't get me wrong, it was wonderful. I learned a lot. I worked with great people. But that return on time, I feel very privileged to be in a position where I can be in control of making that choice. My parents didn't have that kind of choice. And I get to make that choice. And now I'm doing the same thing. I'm following a structure. I'm following a playbook, but it's building my own business and my own success where I get the benefit of every hour that I put into it.
All right. So you're standing at the proverbial cliff and you're like, I'm ready to jump. I got to go. My wings are all set. I'm going to start soaring. Going to open my own, whatever that's going to look like. What was the process that you went through when you were doing that searching to figure out what the next step was for you in the entrepreneurial space?
When I got to that point, I'll admit I felt a little hopeless because I am not the type of person that had the brilliant idea on a bar napkin and was like, I'm just going to build everything. I never thought entrepreneurship was for me, right? I thought it was for people with bigger risk tolerance. And, I was so stuck, right? And eventually just realized that I have to find an alternative path that gives me just enough of the risk-aware structure, a model, a process, a proven system, a network, the tools, the branding that I can work with, right? Because I know I'm an excellent operator. You give me a great game plan, I will run it. Right?
You proved it for somebody else under someone else's roof, under somebody else's name for how many years?
And I'm not the type of person where it needs to be something that I've created on my own. Like I'm so happy to stand on the shoulders of other people that have successfully done it. And also, again, for my risk tolerance, it gave me that confidence, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there just like me, right? I'm stuck. I'm on this hamster wheel. I'm in my early 40s. I got a mortgage, I have a this, I have a that, I have investments. Like I can't just leave.
But that's the trap.
Exactly. And we have to break out of that trap because that trap right now looks very different in terms of the risks that you're willing to bear because layoffs are part of corporate structure now. They're not a personal embarrassment anymore. Technology is back into this logarithmic curve, right? AI will change what jobs look like. And that means that everything that we did the last 2 decades is going to look very different for the next 30.
It's almost like you have to look for the excuse to fire yourself so you can move on to the next chapter.
That's right.
But like, okay, so again, we're back on that cliff. And I don't know, did you do this in a vacuum? Did you and your husband talk this through? Did you have a coach? How did you end up in CMIT?
Yeah. I'm lucky that I have an amazing husband and partner that sees the future for our family in the same way. And so just like any other major life decision, he was absolutely a very big part of this decision and an important encourager, right? You have to be well-funded for any type of business to be done. That means you need to change the way you approach your life a little bit for a while until you can get back on get back on a steady state. And just like anything else, I'm looking at this blank void. I'm like, I don't have the bar napkin with the brilliant idea. Okay, I'm open to taking somebody else's brilliant idea. How do I find the right brilliant idea? Mm-hmm. Somebody introduced this idea of franchising. I was like, you mean restaurants? I mean, that's cool. But I don't know if that's something that's right for me. And they said, no. Franchising is a proven system. That's what franchising is. I'm like, all right. So we got introduced to this fantastic franchise consultant, Jack Johnson. Jack and Jill.
Big shout out to Jack.
Yeah, big shout. Honestly,
Wait, Jack and Jill? Are you kidding me?
Oh,
is that real?
You know what's funny? My kids asked that question. Like, did they go up a hill too? I'm like, oh, they went up the biggest hill for me. No, these guys are fantastic, the franchise insiders. Just like anything else, you need to find somebody that you know, like, and trust, that understands the situation that you're in and is willing to be able to consult you through that entire way. And so franchise consulting is something that we were introduced to. We got introduced to Jack, who's wonderful. And the first thing that he did is a skills assessment. Mm-hmm. We talked to a few other franchise consultants before that, and it felt very transactional, right?
It's a hairy proposition because franchise doesn't necessarily mean that they have it completely figured out, that you're going to be able to make money as long as you follow their process, that the clients, if you build it, the clients or customers will come. Sometimes it's a starting off point where somebody had a really good idea, had some money, put some money toward it, and it's an unfinished product, or it's still in the too early stages. So having a good consultant, I mean, to your point, if it becomes transactional and they're just looking for the next best flavor that came around with the best compensation package, and you start opening up, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, the infrastructure and the support that I thought I was going to have, I don't have. I feel like I'm starting my own business from scratch, yet I still just cut a check to them and I'm paying them franchise and royalty fees.
That's right. Just like when you're looking for a home, there's a lot of real estate agents out there, but there's a reason why certain ones are the most recommended. It's the same thing here, right? And so you really need somebody that's going to understand the way you want to live your life, the needs that you have, the funding that you're willing to put out there. And so that's really what they did. And they did a skills assessment. And look, my career, I'm a B2B sales, technology sales leader, both leader, individual contributor across tech and payments. And I started to look at, when I was doing validation, which is basically when you're introduced to different franchisors, you meet with franchisees, you ask them what the day-to-day life is like and how they're successful. The biggest question that, if anybody's doing this, by the way, this is the killer question to ask: what is the number one problem that you need to solve every day that is not obvious based on this business? And I remember we loved this commercial window cleaning business. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I was looking for B2B, repeatable revenue. I'm like, man, if somebody doesn't show up for work, I'm like, just take the Dawn, put it in the water. Like, I can clean a window, It gave me confidence, right? I remember speaking to a bunch of the franchisees, and they're like, the biggest problem that we have to face is labor. Hiring, training, ghosting, not showing up, not working well with customers. And I just had to think about, is that the problem that I want to solve, that I want to live in every day? Mm-hmm. And if you can do that, I got to tell you, there are some amazing window cleaning businesses out there. It just wasn't for me. And recognizing that and understanding that it's not about what it looks like on the outside, it's what it looks like in the day-to-day. So then we went to the path of other technology-based B2B solutions. And that's sort of how we got into information technology, cybersecurity. I sold enterprise-level cybersecurity. I worked in payments for a large payments network where every single day my life was towing the line of vision and reality of selling services and working with our IP lawyers, our investor relations, our marketing team, our other parts of the legal team, and really understanding how to take technology, speak to operators and business owners, and let technology solve very intentional outcomes and growth objectives that these companies have. I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. And so that's how we got here.
So when you first got into it, obviously we all go into things with a little bit of, rose-colored glasses, and we're all excited and jacked up off a yapper. Thank you, TJ. Buongiorno.
This is delicious, by the way.
It's not bad, right? It's pretty good. What was the ideal picture versus the reality? What were some of the major shifts that you had to take within your mindset, just within your skill set? What were some of the, talk to me a little bit about those early stages of really taking ownership of this thing.
Yeah. So I mentioned in commercial window cleaning, worst case scenario, I was like, I could always clean a window, right? I am not a technician. And that is not my skill. This is a very, very, IT is a trade, right? Like a plumber, an electrician, like there is a specific skill set that you need to go with. That is not my skill set. And I knew that my role was going to be understanding how to identify business problems with operators, how to solve them with technology, and how to understand enough about the impacts of not taking these proper steps, and then employing and working with the right teams that can actually do the hands-on work.
So for people who are listening, just give a dumbed down version of like typical customer comes in, typical issue, and then the typical types of solutions. So this way they can envision as you go through these issues, they know kind of what the job looks like.
Great question. You have a professional services organization or maybe a tech company. They're 25 employees. Maybe they have a small office in SF or Miami or New York, plus a fairly distributed team. They have a mix of computers that are owned by the company and bring your own devices. People travel, people take a month, they work for a month in Europe, whatever they happen to do. And they are growing. They reach this growth inflection point where they're adding 10 employees every quarter. Or their projected revenue growth is looking to double or triple in the next 18 months. And the way that they've been running their business up until that point has been the CTO is the person that's troubleshooting the intern's laptop when they can't.
HQ.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's everything from we've literally put together the way we're handling the technology, the operational technology that you use every single day with the techie person, which is just not a scalable path. All the way to we've recognized that we need to have a bit of a process here, but really there's no operational owner.
So you're like outsourced CTO.
That's right. Outsourced
CIO.
Outsourced CIO, virtual CISO. That's right.
Or you are the virtual tech IT department.
That's right. And IT is really more than just support. IT is the technology infrastructure that you rely on every single day. Just think about it. Think about if you spilled coffee on your laptop right now, what would happen? Would you freak out because literally all of your major client information is on that laptop? And did we test the backup? Did the backup work? When was the last time we backed it up? Or are you just annoyed? I have to buy a new laptop, right? Think about when you're potentially again going for enterprise customers, whether you believe that cybersecurity is something to be concerned about or not. I try not to lead with fear because you either believe it or you don't. Right. But when it comes to cyber insurance, which is important in terms of protecting your business, and when it comes to enterprise customers, you're not going to make any of those RFPs if you don't have an understanding of who's able to touch client data. How are people connecting to the internet to then access the data that's in your information? Are you allowing devices that are not managed to connect to this information?
Well, especially just the level of sophistication that technology has gotten to where these criminals can infiltrate an entire organization just by an employee clicking the wrong button in an email that they shouldn't have clicked the button in.
That's right. Let me actually give you a great example of that. So I talked about bring your own device, right? And so what happens is when people bring their own devices, and if they're not something called managed, basically meaning there's no
oversight.
There's no app that's checking everything, right? You have to have a security system, right? It's just monitoring, alerting you to stuff. If there's none of that, everything that person does and clicks on that device that you are not in control of automatically affects your business. So let's just say you have an employee and maybe they accidentally clicked on a link. Maybe they went to a website that they didn't think they downloaded something from a website and they're not thinking, they're just trying to convert a PowerPoint to a PDF or a PDF to a PowerPoint, whatever they're trying to do, right? It's not apparent immediately that there's a bad actor in there. What's happening now is that bad actor comes in and just watches. And for 2 weeks, they're watching emails. They're watching keystrokes. They're trying to see who that employee is connecting with on Teams, on email on a regular basis. And then one day they see, oh, well, this Karen is connecting with emails with Bobby. Bobby is clearly her peer and an important person within this department. She just got an email from Bobby. And Bobby says, hey, did you pay this invoice? Can you just click here and make sure that you pay this invoice? She's like, oh, no. Clicks on it. All of a sudden, bank account is stolen. Money is taken. Whatever money existed in that bank account is gone. And
you get hijacked right underneath your own nose. And it seems like it's all legitimate.
That's right. And these are, by the way, people that go through security awareness training. They're people just like me and you that understand the risks. But in the moment, my God, I got a text message the other day. My husband looks at me, fun of me, because this is my job, but I still have to double check myself. Text message, you owe $53 to the dentist. No dentist, doesn't have my dental practice on there. And I'm like, babe, did the kids go to the dentist recently? Did you go? He's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm just checking, right? Because you get so caught up in the moment. We have 1,000 things to do.
It happened to me with PayPal. I got a text message, please, your code for PayPal. And I'm like, what? And then I get a phone call and they're like, this is from PayPal. We need to know what the code is. So this way, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, it's 964237. Okay, thank you, blah, 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 blah. And then I get off the phone. I'm like, get the fuck out. And I call PayPal. And I was like, somebody just called me for a code, locked down my account. And they were like, we're going to lock down your account, but they've taken all your crypto out of your wallet. And I was like, stop it here. They froze it. I did it literally. It was like within
good for you for recognizing that
time. But they'll get you. They will get you.
That's right. And AI is only going to exacerbate this. It's only going to make this feel more real. So like a good piece of advice for everybody. We all get phone calls from numbers that are unknown to us now, and we'll decide if we want to pick them up or not. Never say, hi, Elina speaking. Never. Because a lot of times what they do is all they're doing is just trying to record your voice and you saying your own name. Right?
Ooh.
And then what they do.
And that's how I answer my phone all the time. This is Bobby.
No, you're going to start saying, yo. That's it.
All right. Let's send an email out to clients and all of our contacts from now forward. When they call, they're going to get a, how you doing?
How you doing? That's right. How you doing? Because what they do is they take that recording and then they'll take other ways that they've learned about you, about information, and then they'll make a phone call that sounds just like you to your spouse saying like, listen, little Jimmy had to go to the emergency room. They're not sure. He hurt and fell his arm. I'm there right now. Can you please just, we don't have any money to pay for the whatever. Can you just give me the bank account, whatever? And it sounds like your spouse. And it sounds so genuine and real, right? And you're getting this piece of information that is like, oh my God, little Jimmy, is he going to be okay? And so we really need to think about the way that we communicate with technology in a way that is not just putting our information out there right away, because it's only going to get more and more advanced in terms of learning your behaviors, right?
It's insane. Yeah. I mean, some of the things that you see online where you can barely tell that it's AI. The voices, the mannerisms, they pretty much line up. Mm-hmm. There's always something that's like weird, that's off about it, but you know that's gonna start to. It's already started to become more and more real. It's crazy. That's right.
It's funny. You're so funny. You mentioned it's like all of a sudden there's like a third hand somewhere in the corner, but it's like a magic trick. You're not supposed to see it.
Where'd that cigarette come from?
Yeah, exactly. but that's the thing, and that's really what we talk about a lot is structure brings clarity. Structure brings consistency. Again, going back to human nature is to feel safe when we know what's going to happen next. When we were sleep training our children, We had to feed them at a specific time, put them down for their naps at a specific time, put them to bed at a specific time, because then they knew what was going to happen next. That gave them safety and security. Your business is no different, right? And when it comes to your technology is not just the guy with the backpack full of cords that's going to fix your Wi-Fi when it's not working. It is as intentional as your accounting, is as intentional as a lawyer that you're using to be able to get your contracts set up, because strong technology and operational security builds valuations rather than just being like another line item.
Line item, yep.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. I wanted to just take a second to thank everyone who's been tuning into Business Unchained since day one. You know, this community, it means a lot to me. And I'm super excited to finally be able to share a big project that I've been working on for some time now, which is my book, Unchained, the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance. It's part memoir, part roadmap, and it just dives deep into my story, the experiences, the mistakes, and the lessons that have shaped how I think about building a business and life. Everything I talk about on the show is rooted in that journey, and in the book, I dig that much deeper. Unchained's available now. Grab your copy through the link or the show notes, or head over to bobbymascia.com. I appreciate you all, and I'm now taking you back into the show. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, when we talk about scalability, we unfortunately or fortunately, you talk about the whole employee-employer dynamic. You know, we all need employees, and people all need structure. And they work and operate better under having these repeatable processes, even if there's like a little bit of leeway that they have along the process to do whatever it is, at least just taking them from start to finish in I would say the big picture idea. Mm-hmm. Because then when you bring somebody in and you want to train them, well, what are you going to train them on? You got to train them on the process. So if you have a process, then it's easier to train them. If you don't have a process, you're going to be throwing people out to the fire, into the fire, or into the lions every time that they come. So I totally agree that having those, having structure definitely brings scalability to your business.
And when you think about it, everything that's successful, like when you talk about exit strategies, you want to be able to build, like you said, a process that's not owner dependent, individual dependent. That includes every part of your business, and this part's no different, right? So if you build a process that, like my vision for my company is, I don't need them to need me, right? It's a gift when you're able to work yourself out of a job. Mm-hmm. And I will say that's what 2 decades of working in tech and corporate has taught me. Success is when they might still need your leadership. They might still need you culturally. But if the business is successful because you built a great process and product and built a team around it, that is what success looks like. And that's what I'm building from day one for my own business, and what we bring for other people's businesses too, because no major area that you rely on a daily basis should have chaos like that.
When you can build that business, and it takes time, it's not something that you can kind of like snap your fingers. All of a sudden you have this fantastic team that you trust that can take the ball and run with it. The freedom that you get to just continue to either grow the business or do other things that just bring you more joy. I mean, that's the whole point of being in business for yourself, is to have that flexibility, to have that leeway, and then also have an asset that's going to be building value. Ego is the thing that gets in the way though. Yeah. How do you look at this without having any ego and being like started from day one?
Yeah. My kids don't care about my ego. And I really do have to have them be like my moral compass and my center, right? They have egos, working on that, working on navigating that a little bit. Because, I mentioned the work that I was doing back when I was in tech and corporate was honestly a meaningful work, and I'm so grateful for it. It was so invisible to my family. Mm-hmm. The work that we do now, my children, they get to see it. They get to hear and meet some of the clients. They get to have the benefits of how we're bringing, structure to their day, literally giving them hours back in their day because they don't have to worry about some of these problems anymore. My 8-year-old is now my head of marketing. This kid, bless his heart, this kid is putting together marketing collateral for me. He literally steals my business cards, puts them on a piece of paper, glues them on, draws a picture of me going like, CMIT is your partner in technology. Like,
is that your second or your first?
That's my first. Okay. Yeah. The second one's the wild child, but you know how it is. First one's the good one, second one's the real one. And so seeing it through their eyes, that becomes everything. So One of the things that I really enjoy doing is like giving back to the community and working within my community. And so like I mentioned that I coach baseball, right? And so I coach 1-2 rec boys baseball, which by the way has been a humbling experience. Did you know teaching 7 and 8-year-olds hand-eye coordination and what to do in every minute situation of baseball is challenging.
I coached my oldest from the time he was 5 until he aged out. And we'd had our district championship, state championship. It was like a really competitive, fun group of kids. And I miss it. Yeah, I mean, it's the best. It's the best.
It's the best because you actually do see they really are like sponges. And at that age, like you see just in like 8 weeks of spring, you see the difference between the first practice and the last game. And it's so rewarding. And honestly, like we get so busy. This is my way to also intentionally spend time with my children. Right now, I have both boys on my team. And you know, they have soccer practice. I have to take one to soccer practice, the other to the other soccer practice, pick them both up, figure out what I'm going to feed them in between, which because they become like savage animals if they're not. I don't know why they need to be fed all the time. Like they can't live on snacks because then they just become crazier. And then this is the time that we get to spend together, right? Because going back to what I was saying before, it's like every hour that I'm doing something else, if I'm spending that time talking to, you know, Tom or Stu or Jenny about emotional regulation for some other corporate blah, blah, blah. Like what am I really doing? Because the paycheck, which is what it is, we tell ourselves it's a career. And to some degree, the skills that we build, the problems that we're able to solve, that becomes our career. But the title, the company, and the ego, that's what we think is our career, and it's not, right? I would always tell my team, you are the problems that you can solve for people. And that is what we need to focus on building on. And that's what I've done in this business too. I become the problems that I can solve for people. It doesn't matter how early my company is or how long we've been around, because if I can solve your problem today as a modern MSP, right, I'm able to grow with your success as you continue to grow with your success.
So what are some of the major things that or challenges that you're seeing in your business right now that you're facing that you didn't think that you would be dealing with before you got into business for yourself?
It's a very fragmented business, meaning there's a lot of mom and pop shops that do seemingly the same thing on the surface. There's a couple larger, mid-market sized companies, let's just say, call CMIT in that category if you take all the franchisees and put them together. And then there's obviously a couple like enterprise level corporate. And the biggest challenge is at the smaller end, there's so many different legacy ways to be able to solve these problems. And owners, CIOs, CTOs, heads of engineering are just so focused on everything else that they don't have the time to properly evaluate what type of partner am I going to bring on? Like they don't even have the headspace to think, I just need somebody to come in here and just fix my computers.
It's like the uneducated consumer.
Correct. And it's odd because this has been around for decades, right? This is not a new industry, but the industry has meaningfully shifted with the shift in technology and the shift in our relationship with technology, right? You even have, even that commercial window cleaning business in 5 years, that's going to be all drones, right? I might even get back into that now if I think about it. I like the idea of drones. So our relationship with technology has changed, but the way that we're willing to accept that, there's always a lagging curve of adoption, right? And so you have people that are just used to Band-Aids and they don't realize it's a Band-Aid because they're so focused on every single other part of growth. IT becomes like the hot potato, right? They just see it as, again, the guy with the cords that comes in to fix the broken printer, whatever. They don't see it as saving themselves time. Every minute that you are spending not billing your very valuable billable hour, that you are not growing, you are not networking, you are not doing whatever is going to make your business more successful, is taken away. And so I feel like I actually have a job to educate about thinking about what do you want your business to look like in the next 12, 18 months, 5 years, right?
And there's a couple things to unpack there with just the mindset of people who are in these positions, because even, you think about the person who's stuck in the business and they're not looking at things, or they're valuing themselves as being the ones who need to really be personally touching it. Again, when you become an employee, you don't lose value by making yourself somewhat obsolete. It just shows how strong of a leader you are. But then you have the people who they can't get out of their own way. and they look at things and they're either cost conscious because they're not looking at the big picture. They're managing or juggling too many things. I mean, it all comes back to the type of leadership, the type of team that you put together, because at the end of the day, it's that interconnected tissue of humans that really have these businesses that are running. And our faults are always going to show themselves, but it's a matter of, are you reinvesting back into yourself, into your mindset, into your team, and trying to stay ahead of it all?
Absolutely. The highest value work has to come from humans. If technology can take care of other things, you need to let it. And that requires a little bit of humbling, a little bit of retrospect, and a little bit of pause, right? It's hard to pause, especially when you're on this growth curve, right? But that reflection is important, because what got you to this stage is not going to get you successfully to that next stage. And the worst time to figure that out is when you're on the cap table and the VC is telling you your EBITDA is not going to be the multiple you thought it was going to be, because there's too much risk in your operational security structure.
Right. To go backward and do the cleanup, not only is it going to be more costly than if you would have just done it right from the beginning, but you also think about the time, the energy, the effort. When you're already in the mindset of, I feel like I'm here, oh, I have to take 2 steps backward to rework some of this stuff. Most people go, forget it. And then they just take the loss. They take it on the chin and they go, or I'll just keep running this longer. Or they take their eye off the ball and they're not running their company anymore because they're so focused on all of these other things. And they realize, wow, I just fixed this, but I took my eyes off the ball and the company is not growing in sales anymore. It's flatlined, or we're having people issues, or something's happening. Under the four walls. Yeah,
structure is what you should have, regardless of whether you're looking to sell tomorrow or you're looking to continue to just grow your business. And that's something that applies to technology as much as it does everything else. So I'll give you an example. Being an being a franchisee and starting your business, the best thing about technology and AI is it allows you to potentially get places faster than you were able to before, in terms of brainstorming, in terms of ideas, and also in terms of things like contracts. So I do know fellow franchisees that would spin up a contract, like a managed services, MSA contract, using some AI tool, right? And they're thinking, listen, I can't spend the money right now. I got to be careful. I just need to get something that's good enough. And good enough is I'll think about it later. Good enough. Mm-hmm. These are the terms that are company and business destroyers, right? You need to be setting up your business to function as closely as possible on customer 1 to how you're going to manage customer 10, to how you're going to manage customer 100, customer 1,000, right? Mm-hmm. There are some things that you're just going to learn along the way. There are other things that you can control. So from our perspective, for example, our MSA, I hired the best MSP lawyer in the country to be able to set the right foundation for us. So our first customer signed the same exact contract that our 10th customer did.
So your franchisor didn't handle that. That was something you had to deal with.
So that's something that's a great question. I would say, going back to your question before about knowing what you're buying into, the franchisor gave us a good initial template. But I think the important thing about this business is there's so many different angles you can take. So for example, there's different levels of compliance that you can really lean into and become even certified in CMMC or SOC 2 or FTC or whatever. And you really need the flexibility to be able to determine that for yourself and to build your business around that, which means your contract is going to look a little different. So what they gave us was a good template, but it was meant to be iterated on.
Yeah, I think that people just need to also do a little bit of a better job of understanding the stakes, right? Low stakes, high stakes, right? You want to change from 2-ply to single ply to change a couple, to save a couple bucks. It's low stakes, right? All right, we'll save a couple bucks there. You want to go and have ChatGPT or Claude, because Claude, I think, just does a better job, rewrite some of your legal agreements. You're dealing with some higher stakes stuff. I mean, we had a client that we were talking to the other day that did a partnership agreement and just slapped something together. That was the comment. I would just slap something together. What does it say in send us over a copy of the partnership agreement? And he's trying to renegotiate the terms. His partner's trying to renegotiate the terms, and they have a terrible agreement. But this terrible agreement is what's holding up a lot of the decisions moving forward, because the elements that are worth arguing for in that agreement, even though they both want to scrap that agreement, just use an attorney. The amount of time and energy and effort that you're wasting right now. And then you're going to go into a situation where somebody's going to walk away not happy. That's not the best compromise. The best compromise is finding something that works for both parties. It's not a good negotiation when one person walks away pissed. If you're the one that's happy, that doesn't mean you won. Especially if you have to continue a relationship together.
Absolutely.
So I think that people just, if they start to think about these things, especially, when you look at the technology and the exposure that you have, makes a lot of sense.
I mean, you're talking to a Jewish mother who has intentionally chosen a business in risk, right? So for me, what do they say? In my family, can't swing a dead cat without hitting at least like 5 lawyers, right? So this, I will say maybe culturally, like this was ingrained in me as risk assessment and always thinking about that. When you sign an agreement with somebody, whether it's a handshake or whether it's a piece of paper, the last thing you want to do is agree to something that you're going to have to amend in the future with the known risks that are ahead of you, right? To your point, right? Because the worst thing that you can do is to build your business, build your team, build the way that you spend your time, knowing that that's not the path to your success in the end.
And it's a balance because people do not have endless budgets and can't hire the best on all fronts, but you have to identify kind of like, where do you put that money? Where do you put those resources? What's your cash flow? To your point, people are looking at their multiples of EBITDA. Are you also paying attention to your cash flows and how you're managing those? I think everyone cries about taxes. I want to reduce my taxes. Reinvesting back in your business is a great way to reduce your taxes.
Yeah.
Now that's a multi-layer process, but if you do it correctly, it is the best way to avoid having to pay taxes.
Yep. And actually, this is probably the interesting thing that I had to sort of unlearn from how I understood my family income, how money leaves our pot, right? Mm-hmm. How we invest, how we build value. I had to unlearn everything and really just almost like start from scratch in terms of the way that I see our family and our life and our investments. So making this jump, like I'm lucky. I was in a position where I was gainfully employed and I intentionally said, I'm going to take this bet with my family on this business, mm-hmm. right? Not everybody is lucky enough to be in that position, and I'm lucky enough to be in that position. So we had the ability to plan financially, doing the numbers, doing the math. When can we, become net positive? When can we start seeing like income coming in, and like what is that going to look like for our family? When you look at
a good pro forma statement, whenever you need help with those.
Oh, I'll call you.
Get elbow deep into that.
But like the way we would look at it, like I'm just making it up. You have a W-2 of household income of, $500,000 a year, right? In like, let's say in this area for professional services. And you look at it as like, well, how do I replicate whatever my income was, 200,000 plus this bonus, right? But that's totally the wrong way to think about it, right? Because you're getting a pile of money that, by the way, we talked about, it resets every year, right? The goalpost continues to move mm-hmm. every single year. So you're now building an asset. You think you are, but you're not. And you have this pile of money and all you're doing is debiting from that pile every single mortgage payment, soccer. Oh my God, the kid stuff. Like what? Dude, does it get cheaper? It just gets more expensive every year with these kids. And then you got to feed them 3 times a day.
Listen, don't think that hasn't gone unnoticed on this side of the table, please.
And then you think.
How old are your boys?
8 and 6.
Oh.
I'm right in that meaty part of.
16 and 14.
Oh, so dude.
Human vacuum cleaners, like. They ingest more protein, and my son is like, they actually both of them. They don't like cheap shit. Can't give them chicken fingers from Costco. It's a completely different level.
No, they need to have the high end stuff. You can't do. You got to the fast cat. You got Chick-fil-A is like the lowest bar that we'll ever have, and then when they all need to go, they're all obsessed with wings now, right? Wingstop and all that.
My middle guy's obsessed with going to the butcher and getting a strip steak
Wagyu.
And being outside and cooking it. And I'm like, dude, that you need a job. Like it's not all about what you can consume. You have to also add to the pot at some point with some sort of do the laundry, clean this up.
That's what's up. So listen, I'm going to come over. I'm going to help organize. Your wife and I, we're going to organize your closets a little bit. My husband will be out there in the back with you, cooking some Wagyus, and I don't know, maybe we'll make your sons can go teach my kids baseball. How about that? That I will pay them good money to be able to, because they certainly don't listen to mom. What am I? I'm just mom. I'm not, doesn't matter. I'm the coach. They don't listen to me. So you're looking at that W-2 statement, and then maybe you're taking a bit of it and putting it at a 401k, which compounds at a very modest rate. Or maybe you're putting it into stocks or bonds or assets or something. And you tell yourself, well, that's my asset that I'm building. But what if you took every dollar that you earned and you put it into an asset that compounds? And that is the difference between working in corporate, working in tech, working for someone else versus building your own life and being a business owner. And the minute that you start thinking about it that way, everything changes, right? It's not about how can I replace my 200,000+ a year income? It becomes, how can I build an asset that compounds so that if I've built the right structure, in 5 years, I have the ability to maybe take myself out of a lot of the day-to-day, maintain leadership, maintain culture, maintain marketing and networking, and start the next thing.
You don't know how many people have come through the door, referred over with these huge 401ks and all equity in their house. And they've been like, I am set. When can I retire? And it's like, all your money's in your fixed asset, which is your home, that you're not going to liquidate to lever to, promote some sort of lifestyle that you want to live post-retirement. And every dollar that you pull out of that other account is going to be taxed. Mm-hmm. So there's no management.
Nope.
And especially if you're going from making, $400,000-$500,000 a year, if you're putting some of that money away, what's your equivalent? $300,000? Mm-hmm. So you now have to take $300,000 out to net the same thing as if you were to have a job, because all it's doing is replacing your income. And when you have a business and you can utilize the capital gain structure of that business, you can utilize the income, the write-off potential, some of the R&D things that you can do to grow out that business. Even if you're passive, your dollar just stretches so much further. And people don't put that into the calculus of leaving a job for starting and creating a business. You're right. You're 100% right.
And I wish we spoke about this more. Again, going back, like, we're on this path, we're on this wheel. I would say, our generation is very good at having a task in front of us and executing over and over and over again. The problem is that we're doing it with blinders on. And then we get to this point, like, going back, you asked a question about when did I realize it? So I just turned 40. And I remember after my second son was born, it was about a year or two. So I must have been around 36. And I just started thinking, what am I going to do when I'm 40? What's the next role? What's the next goalpost? Do I want to be SVP?
Jess, you remember when we turned 40? Jess and I went to college together. We've known each other for 30 years.
I just think, again, children give you this perspective. And I was thinking, like, what am I going to do in this very near term before I even realize it? Because if I don't know what I'm doing at 40, what am I going to do at 45? What am I going to do at 50? What kind of life do I want when my kids, Baruch Hashem, are graduating, going to a great school that's, God willing, not going to cost me a fortune? Otherwise, I'm going to trade school or forget school. I'm going to have a nice little pot of money where they can go start their own business and they can get their own education that way. Who knows?
School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks. I don't know. Maybe we'll go back. And so I just started thinking about that and thinking, like, well, what's the future? Because I was always told you can be as senior at a company as you want to be and just tell yourself that that's okay. And that just doesn't exist anymore. If you're not moving forward, moving up, moving around, you're done. Yeah. You're going to be in a dead end or you're going to be gone. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if you work for a big 30,000 global corporation or if you work for a 100-person tech company or, a 25-person local company. If you are not in a position where you can be in control of your time and how you're going to ultimately make money, then and you have just like a little bit of desire to be in control of that, I want to encourage everybody to really think about what the future is going to look like, how you want to live your life. Now is the time. You don't have to make a decision. You just need to decide that where you are is not where you're going to be. And every single day, do something to learn about a way to get out of it and move forward away from it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, we have clients that have been they've reached the C-suite, and we have some that are in more of a, let's just call it white hair appreciated position, where the experience really leans in their favor. But then there are other C-suite roles where the young have the power. And when you lose that high-paying job and you're now competing against people who are 10 or 15 years younger, given technology, given just the social nuances of how things work differently than when you were really engaged, it becomes a really tough position to overcome.
They're cheaper. They're just as hungry. They're much more willing to give up their time like you did. I used to do the 12-hour days in the office in my 20s. I would do whatever I needed to do. They don't have families yet, maybe. They're very willing to get on a plane.
So top 3 pieces of advice. I'm thinking about my business. You're a business owner. Whether or not I'm employed or I own my own business, what are the 3 most important things that you've learned since you turned the key, opened up your shop, your day sitting here in this chair with me?
The number one thing that I learned is that you need to honestly assess the risk in your life, in your personal life. What seems to be stable can actually have hidden risks that are going to not give you. Let me say it a different way. There are hidden risks in everything. And so personally, you signed a contract of, I'm going to get this great education. I'm going to go into this industry, and I'm always going to be employed as long as I work hard and keep my head down. That is not the case anymore. And if that is what you believe, then I would make sure that you are pretty confident that you have marketable skills that you can then transition and that you're willing to potentially take a pay cut when you have to make that transition, because it's inevitable.
Yeah, you got to stress test that.
You got to stress test that. Number 2, the same applies to your business, right? There is inherent risk everywhere. And so as a business owner, you obviously need to strike that right balance, right? But you need to make sure that the systems that you rely on every single day for your business to be successful, you need to mitigate that risk as much as possible, because that is the value that you're building in your business. That's also the biggest quiet gaping hole that growth and scalability is going to completely rip open at absolute worst possible time for you. And the third is coach your kids in baseball.
Yeah.
Like, don't take that client that you know is going to suck. Just don't do it. Even for, I've had to do that. Even at this stage of my business, I've had to do it. God, it's so painful. Every minute that you are spending doing something, you are not doing something else. Every minute you're spending troubleshooting a difficult client is a minute you're not giving love to a good one, and you're not nurturing a better relationship, or you're not out there networking to build the brand that you want to build.
I think that goes back to your first point, is just even when you think you're doing the right thing, stress test it. Just, no matter how many processes, no matter how good your structure is, nothing is rigid and constant. Everything has just the variable nature of changing environment, changing technology, everything changes.
Absolutely. Your kids are good at also stress testing your ego. So.
Dude, my son goes, he says, Dad, Knicks game tonight, first game, 8:30. Make sure you're home. I said, I have this event tonight because we're launching ERI. And
congratulations, by the way.
I have this event tonight. I go, dude, I got an event. I have to speak. I got to get, once I'm done, I'll be home. He goes, can't you leave early? I'm like, no, this is an event that that the business, we have to do it. And he goes, but the Knicks game is coming on 8:30. I want you home. And I'm like, yes. It's like,
listen, if anyone's going to keep you honest, it's your children. So just tell them, listen, if I have to miss a little bit of the first period, or at least the pregame.
Now, 5 years ago, I would have done that. 5 years ago, I would have been like, dude, it just is what it is. Work is work. You like all the nice stuff. Like, this is what daddy's got to do. Now I kind of go like, you're right. 8:30. I'll be home by 8:30. Maybe I'll miss tip off, but I'll be home.
Good for you.
Because there's nothing worse than your kid wanting you to be there and you choose something else over that, because eventually that pendulum, the cat in the cradle, I mean, we've been listening to that song for our entire lives. That dynamic's going to shift 100%. And you're going to be wanting to spend time, and they're going to be like,
that's
screw
right.
you.
When I'm old and gray, which might have already happened, but thank you, hair color. I want them to choose me. And the only way, my husband and I talk about this all the time, the only way they're going to choose time with you is if you build that discipline in them now that you choose time with them too. And that honestly is like my guide and compass, because why else have a family? Why else have children? Why else be there for them if you're not intentional with the time that you spend with them?
My daughter, last story, my daughter's 10 years old, and we always do bring your kid to work day. This year I had to be in the city for a meeting. And I'm like, everybody's so busy. We're like, if you want to bring your son or daughter in, bring them in. But I don't know, we've got a bunch of different people going in different directions, and it's probably not going to be that big of a thing because it kind of just caught us by surprise. We weren't ready for it. My daughter gets into the car after I picked her up from dance, and she says, I'm so excited for for bring your daughter to work day tomorrow. And I was like, oh, you're going to kill me. I have a meeting in the city. And she goes, oh, okay. And she sits back. She still sits in the back seat because she's still too little. I started asking her about dance, and they're very short, curt, like 1-2 word responses. And then I look back in the mirror, and I could tell she's like holding back, crying. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to the city tomorrow. And she's like, what are you talking about? You have a meeting. You said you have to go to a meeting. And I'm like, no. This is more important. We're doing bring your daughter to work day. And she goes, Dad, you're not going to miss your meeting in the city for bring your daughter to work day. And I turned around. I stopped back. We were stopped at a red light. And I go, this is not your choice. This is my choice. You're stuck now with me. You're coming to work with me. And she starts bursting out crying. Thank you, Daddy. I love you, Daddy. I love you, Daddy. You can't buy those moments.
No, you can't. And those are the core memories that they're going to rely on when they're older. Also, good for you for learning how to speak a woman, because I'm fine is the biggest lie that we tell everybody. And your daughter at 10 has already nailed it. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great conversation. I love the dynamic of the corporate life, the mindset shift. Taking life by by the horns and running with it. And I love the fact that you're coaching your 2 kids in baseball as a mom. That's awesome. Oh, it's great. It's also great. My little one loves Aaron Judge. So he like mimics his swing. The problem is that he mimics like the way it looks. And I'm like, just keep your eye on the ball, bro. It's like, no. I got it. Like, just Mama, I got the aura. I got the aura.
Yeah, you got lots of aura, okay? Hit the ball.
Hey guys, Bobby Mascia here. If you've been listening to Business Unchained, you know we're creating conversations that matter. Real stories and strategies to help business owners and entrepreneurs win. We've been putting a lot of work into these episodes in our online community, bringing you content that can actually move the needle for your business. And we're everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, TikTok, you name it, we're there. So look, if you're getting value from what we're doing, please follow, subscribe, and drop a quick comment or like. It really helps us grow this thing. Just search Business Unchained and you'll find us everywhere.